Great afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Conquering Through the Crisis. I am your host, Lamont Gwynn, and you're here because you believe, just like I do, that when crisis, when problems, when situations come up, that instead of just coping through them, we conquer. And I am excited about our theme today. Our theme for the show is research, diversify, adapt, the new business paradigm. And my guest today, his name is Carlos Quiñones. He's the president, CEO of Display America. And when you hear his story of pivoting his business, of researching, diversifying, and adapting, you'll see just how what businesses are doing now in this pandemic to keep the lights on, to keep people employed, to actually look at new ways of doing their business. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Carlos Quiñones to the show. Welcome to the show, Carlos.
Hi, Lamont. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's start this interview or this conversation, I like to say. Let's start this conversation with just a little bit of background. Tell us, where did you grow up? How was growing up? I know you're from Puerto Rico, so just give us a little background about who you are.
Sure. So I was born in Puerto Rico and lived in Puerto Rico till about 10 years old. My dad worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. We got transferred to Mobile, Alabama. When I was about 10 years old. Lived in Alabama for 2 years. And after 2 years, my dad got transferred to Frankfurt, Germany. And we lived in Frankfurt about 7 years. That's where I went to high school. And from Frankfurt, we moved to Atlanta. That's where I started college. Went to Georgia State University, graduated there with a management and business degree, and lived in Atlanta for a long time. But it all started in Puerto Rico. My entire family is from the island, and we have a very strong family background, very, very strong knit values as it relates to that. But of course, the other side is the military side. My entire family, my brother, my dad, my grandfather, were all part of the military. So we were raised in a military family. So a lot of discipline. I was in military school in kindergarten. So we're dressing up, as military, as soldiers at the age of 6 years old in Puerto Rico, doing drills. So a lot of the discipline and those really strong values that, from a survival standpoint, having that mentality of never giving up started very, very early. And I lived in Germany. It was all about adapting. Same in Alabama. A lot of different culture and language, weather. It was very cold in Germany. So being able to adapt at such a young age, we're just learning how to speak English, and then we moved into the Germany economy, and now we're having to adapt and try to learn how to speak a whole nother language. I think that helped, become the person that I am today.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you went to college. When you graduated, did you work for someone, or did you go and start your own business right away?
No, I actually worked during college, so kind of balanced everything out, going to college and working. Towards the end of my college career, I was working at Sears. I was a bill collector at Sears Credit. Worked there 5 years, and I stayed at Sears because they had a tuition reimbursement program. So I stayed at Sears. I became a supervisor there, and then after I graduated, I started working for a staffing company. New young company that started doing industrial staffing. They recruited me to help with the branch location and the management part of it. Was there for a few years. And then a really good friend of mine from Georgia State introduced me to exhibits. and it was a company out of Atlanta, and they were looking for an account executive. And he told me you get to travel, it's marketing and business, more business to business environment. So I went, interviewed, and that was in 1999 is when I started in the exhibit industry. And in 2001, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened. So I had a brand new account executive, just getting, my feet wet. And all of a sudden, boom, we get hit with a major recession in '01. And at that time, I started sending out my resumes because no one wanted to travel.
Mhm.
Everyone was really scared about staying in large conventions and mass gatherings. So I've been through this before, back in '01. So yeah, there was a lot of fear as far as our, we were trying to, maintain and keep our family, pay the bills. And um, in '02, '03, exhibits went out of business. I mean, a
Mm.
lot of companies in the exhibit industry either went bankrupt or merged, and exhibits was one of them. They closed in mid '02. And a good friend of mine that his father-in-law owned some real estate. He gave me a suggestion and said, "Hey, Carlos, what are your thoughts about? I mean, you've got some good customers. Try to write it out and do your own thing." And I'm like, "Well, that's very risky. Plus, I've never done this before. Of course, yeah, I got a degree, but I mean, this is a little bit too much." And he said, "I'll talk to my father-in-law, and we can talk to King Buttermore, which was one of our advisors at Georgia State. He was an attorney, a corporate lawyer." And we all got together, and another buddy of mine from state that did web design. And we all started talking about how we can do this. And everything just kind of lined up. You know how it just happens, where you just really put all your efforts into something that could happen, and it will materialize. And then that's exactly what happened in '03, September '03. We founded Display America. Just from default, really, is that what I call it, out of default, where you're looking to make your next move, and Display America, came to life.
Beautiful.
Or
So,
major catastrophe.
right.
Yeah.
So there is a turning point at some point when you have to step out on courage, on faith, and say, and step out of fear and say, I'm going to take this chance.
Mhm.
How, and at this time, were you married at the time?
Yes.
So how do you navigate all of that? How did you navigate all of that to say, you know what, I'm going to move on this?
Well, one of the things we had small our first son. He was probably 3 years old, 3 4 years old, and then my wife was working at the time, so there was some security there, but I think my nature was, hey, I want to take care of this family. This is my job. This is I want you to be with the little one, and not me. And I just felt that sense of obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up just saying, spoke with my parents and all my friends and family, and I had a great support team. Where it's like, Carlos, we know you could do it. This is something you've been doing for a couple of years now. Yeah, this is a big bump on the road, but no one else can do this but you. And a few weeks later, we get a call from CCAM Laboratories, a new company that was growing extremely fast in the pet industry. And they called that they had come to our showroom from the former company, and they say, Carlos, we're looking for a new exhibit and I was in transition. And the previous owner, I was in talks with them to see how we can acquire some of their equipment, some of their samples, office equipment. And with that phone call, everything turned. You know, it was like, okay, so when is your convention? It's coming up in 3 months. Okay. I immediately solidified a distributorship with Nimlock Company in Chicago. Started making all the moves necessary to be able to take care of this our first customer, you know, and we already had the relationship, so that was a plus. And then we ended up, you know, closing the deal after 3 months. It was a $25,000 deal. Put the money right back into the business. You know, like I said, a friend of mine gave us like 6 months of free rent, and everything just started lining up from there. And it was all, you know, from there it was like, okay, now this is serious. So I brought in a couple of our my colleagues from the previous company to help out because they had been laid off as well. So they came in and had a, you know, office manager and a warehouse coordinator, and us three just started, you know, working. And another opportunity came in 04, 05 with Crown Plaza Hotels, and they had like 26 shows. I was introduced by a friend with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So the networking was coming to life. You know, it was like, okay, you know, we know your new exhibit company. What can you help us out with? And from there, it just started, you know, started going very well. And then in 08, we hit another bump on the road with the housing market. We had, you know, some challenges there, but we, I was working from my house. I mean, from my living room, and but we ended up, you know, getting out of that and found a new building and some new accounts. And I mean, yeah, it's now we're talking, you know, 17 years later, and here we are again. So wow. We've got some experience.
Yes, it sounds like you do. Now, one of the things I wanted to go back on is early on, you had a support system that said, you can do this. And for my audience, for those of you who have a dream, who have a desire to do, it's really important to surround yourself around people who believe in you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you are alone on that island, but as you continue to put forth the effort in doing it, to making your dream come to pass, what will happen is you will start attracting people. And the more people you attract, the more people you get to believe in your dream and to support you, the better. So my encouragement is stay away from the naysayers, stay away from the people who are going to talk down, who are going to tell you that you can't do it. We're going to give you every reason in the world for you to stay in your box. Right. Find people who are going to encourage you, who are going to uplift you, who are going to say, you can do this. So when you, so now we're in this pandemic. And it's just really interesting how you and your company approached this. So let's break down the theme. How did you first research? Tell us about how that happened, because I think here in Florida, the shutdown happened about the 13th, around that week in March. But you had already had your feelers out there prior to that. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And just to mention on that comment about surrounding yourselves with people that pretty much have your back. But before that, you have to have the faith in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be 100% in. If you're doubting yourself, then people are going to doubt you. So right. Number one is, hey, you know what? You know, after speaking with my family and talking to them about what I wanted to do,
Right.
Yes, surround yourself around those people. But number one is, okay, talk to yourself and say, okay, is this something I can do? Is this something that I can handle? Is this something that you want to do? Is this something that you're passionate about? And then go all out, you know? But yeah, so we're in the trade show exhibit business.
Right.
We help companies help brand their products and services specifically at trade shows and those types of events, conventions, and exhibitions. And our job is to design an experience for our customers to be able to sell their products. So we're behind the scenes, 100% of the time. We're behind the scenes, making sure that they look good and they present themselves to be able to earn that brand equity. So we're planning 6 months to a year in advance,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we're already understanding that we're going to San Diego. You have a 400 square foot booth space. These are the restrictions. We know who all the vendors and suppliers are to be able to deliver what we need to deliver within those parameters. So we're already talking about how we're going to, make this happen. We're also understanding exactly from the client perspective what products they're launching, what services they're promoting, what's their theme, and so our plans were already set in March for probably a dozen different exhibitions, different shows. We had some clients that were building a whole new booth, large 600 square foot exhibit. We were already in production. We were already delivering some of the components to be able to put everything into play and then ship to the advanced warehouse, which is usually 2 to 3 weeks prior to the event.
Hmm.
We had two major shows that were monitoring the situation in February, two major associations. One of them was an international convention, and it's biannual, so it's every 2 years. So they're planning 12 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the McDonald's, the annual convention for McDonald's
Wow.
in Orlando. So they were one of the first ones sending out, press releases. Is like, we understand that this is what's going on. We're monitoring the situation, and that convention was in mid-April. That's when we were going to have everything set up, and this is early March. So at first we were like, okay, we understand that this may be, they may postpone it or they may cancel it, but we weren't really taking anything serious. We were just continuing with our operation. Everyone was, still focused on that. But we ended up mid-March, right around the second week of March, a small event in California was canceled. And then it was like rapid fire, one after another. This one's being canceled. This one's being postponed. We're getting calls every day. Like, okay, are you guys still in production with that? I was like, yeah, we've got some of it in production. We can cancel some of the services. I mean, it was basically all hands on deck. Contacting association, contacting our suppliers, canceling orders, and it became a normal thing for probably 30 days straight
Hmm.
until we knew that, okay, now it's time. I think it was in or late March when we had the stay-at-home orders in some states, and the economy started shutting down. Then we started looking, okay, so that means that the May shows are going to get canceled, and which they did, and we've had shows canceled all the way up through August. Right
Hmm.
now,
Wow.
we've had some events that are already canceled in August. So right now, probably 50% of those events won't happen in 2020. We've got the other 50% that have postponed to late fall, October, November, December. But it's still kind of, that's pending,
Right.
given the circumstances that we're in.
Right. So so with all of that happening, you decided, okay, um, yeah, our business is like just vanishing.
Mhm.
What did you do with your company that kind of talks about, it's almost in the research because you had to do some research, but you also had to start diversifying. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So every Friday we have our team huddle, and we talk about all our priorities for the upcoming week and about the results. And we talked about some cancellations, and that this is definitely getting worse. So no, we didn't talk about any diversification. Our first plan of attack was to reach the customers. Let's talk to the customers about a game plan. If this does, if it happens in the fall, let's plan for the fall. So we were still focused on our core business, um, and we were glued to the news every day. We started seeing how deadly this virus was. We started seeing what was going on with the healthcare workers, and that's when it dawned on me, just okay, right now the focus is on healthcare. The focus is on these healthcare workers. Focus is on trying to protect these people that have the viruses, because people are dying very, very fast. The whole situation with the nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I told the team, please don't worry. We're not laying anybody off. Let's have our contingency. Let's develop our contingency plans for our core business, and then 2 or 3 of us will look at the situation in order for us to help. What can we do to help? And we started posting uh, different messages about, we're here to help. What can we do? And one of our suppliers reached out and said, okay, we've got some testing, some structures, which, for trade shows, it's modular structures. But hospitals need to have testing labs. There's a lot of people that are just coming to the hospitals to get tested. There wasn't really any system in place to do that. So we're like, okay, how do we isolate those patients? So we started talking about, these modular structures, and we have an awesome installation network. So our business of installing exhibits turned into, okay, let's see how we can install these modular structures for hospitals and healthcare workers and city and state governments.
Wow.
And I had a conversation with my dad, who's the Army Corps of Engineers, about, what's their involvement. And, he mentioned that, they work very closely with FEMA. And when Florida announced that this was a state of an emergency, for the state of Florida, and there were other states following suit on. California had already had an emergency. FEMA got involved, so that triggered me to let me find out what's going on with FEMA. How does FEMA, uh, what can they do with their resources to be able to help this pandemic? And then, of course, the Army Corps of Engineers had a conference, and a very close relationship with FEMA to be able to deploy the resources for a patient surge, with the escalating numbers of cases that were happening, March and April. So we reached out to our designers, we reached out to our engineers. Okay, how can we help in this situation where we can actually have some makeshift patient rooms using our aluminum extrusions, our infill panels, our modular, systems that we use every day in trade shows, and be able to deploy those to Detroit, Michigan, New York, and so yeah, and the entire industry. I mean, all of our peers begin looking at ways to get involved, and from show decorators to AV companies, exhibit builders and installers, and pretty much our industry, dove in, and we set up New York, Michigan, Colorado, Minnesota. Our entire network just went straight into work, and that helped maintain our employee staffed. Actually, we had to find more resources to staff due to the demand. And at the end, I think they're still looking at some opportunities in some of the other areas, but I think there were over 15,000 beds, 15,000 makeshift patient rooms that were deployed, and I would say the majority of it was from exhibit companies.
Wow. Nice, nice. So when you, as you adapted and this was something new. You've gone through crisis before, but this was something new. This is a new ball of wax. What is the biggest lesson that you learned from all of this?
I think that the biggest lesson is to show your team, our employees are always looking for leadership, are always looking for ways to stay calm, and we'll follow what Carlos does. So I think for me it was stay patient, continue to learn, and also invite the team to stay informed, to keep them, just don't, because they all can't. So this means we're going to be out of a job. What do we do?
Right.
So my response was more, okay, let's be patient about this. Let's see how we can help. And we did lay off some folks, but then after the Paycheck Protection Program, we did receive some funds, and we immediately brought them back on staff. We stayed very informed with that. I would say 4 to 5 weeks they were laid off. I had some employees that stayed on, and I think the number one lesson is to stay patient during this crisis. Stay grounded. Don't stay in the moment. Just start looking forward versus staying in that state of shock where everybody was at.
Right. Do you think that businesses, especially small businesses, even large business, do you think that business will this is going to somehow affect the way, like, you're in the display business, but now you're not just in the display business? Do you think that's going to be something new in business, where it's not, you have to be, as a business, able to look at the situation and adapt to what's happening in order to stay in business?
Yeah, we're never going to look at how we do business the same way. I don't think small entrepreneurs. I mean, there's a huge opportunity, yes, for entrepreneurs and small businesses, but like you mentioned, large corporations are going to have to look at different ways on because of this pandemic. I say adapting is key. I've been adapting all my life. Just like in business, creating a plan and executing on that plan is extremely important. But when the plan just completely goes out the window, it's okay to be able to take just take a bird's eye view of what's going on, evaluate the situation, be able to make that shift without really jumping the gun. So taking your time with it, being patient with it again. But yeah, our entire trade show community and events community will come back. It will be different. I know that there's more virtual events, but I know face-to-face is going to come back. It's slow, but it's going to come back, and I know that. However, in the exhibit business, we have to diversify because we know it's proven that the materials and the products and the resources that we have, this experience has helped us to continue and be proactive with new offerings, to healthcare, to construction, to schools. the products are extremely valuable to those markets and those sectors, and we are formulating a really good action plan to be able to keep that as a sustainable program for DA.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, even though the virus is a bad, I mean, the results of it have been deadly. That people are learning how to use this opportunity, this pandemic, to become better, to look for ways to not allow the pandemic to be at the forefront of what's happening, but
Correct.
looking for ways to adjust to make themselves, their businesses, their families better. I mean, just look
Yes.
at the way people are exercising now. You know, it's just it's giving people a chance to reevaluate. To like you said, the theme: research, diversify, adapt. I want to thank you, Carlos, for this conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to bring out before we
No,
close out
I
the show?
think this is great. Great timing. We're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Continue staying patient, passionate is a key too. I mean, it's not, like I said, not just jumping into conclusions, but really stay true to your core passion and believe in yourself. Have faith, and you'll get really good results.
Beautiful. I want to close out the show with 6 check-in questions. These are check-in questions, and for those of you who don't know, May is Mental Health Month. So I do these 6 check-in questions with my guests at the end of each show, and I like to do them with you. So the first question is, Carlos, how are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm feeling very connected, well connected with my staff, my friends, and most importantly, my family.
Beautiful. What's not working?
Taking turns in the kitchen to cook. I tend to just miss my time slot.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So
So you
go ahead.
no, that's good. Good.
So what is working?
Oh, the synergies. We're having fun. We're staying positive. We're not taking things personal. I just think the synergies are working very well.
I love that word. Last week I mentioned that I have a synergy board, and I was able to show folks, just an idea of what that synergy board is. And if you haven't seen it, I'll share the link with you so you can see it. But yeah, I've created a synergy board because I just love that word, and because that's something that it helps make things work. The synergy of
Absolutely.
all those moving parts come together.
Absolutely, and not just at home, but at work. Virtually, we're connected. The chemistry is really good, and our customers as well. I mean, I think it's just bringing this whole country together. Really, I mean, and I know there's some divisiveness, but overall, I do see that there's a lot more unity as a country.
Yes. What do what do you need?
What do I need?
Yes. What do you need?
Some live events. Trade shows, live events, sporting events. Yes.
Yes. Yes. What are you proud of?
I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of my team at DA. Their flexibility, their understanding, their hard work. Very proud of them.
And then the final question is, what can you let go of?
Well, now that my middle son has graduated from high school during this pandemic, he's going on to UCF. Letting go of my high school young man, now he's now going to his next phase in his life. So that's gonna be tough, but he's ready.
Awesome. So we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Carlos. By the way, how can people see these new offerings? How can people contact you? What's your website address if you can give that information?
Absolutely. So yeah, you can contact us at info@displayamerica.com. For general inquiries, you can send me a direct email at carlos@displayamerica.com, and go to our website, displayamerica.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And yeah, we can be reached very, very easily. We're based in Atlanta, but with presence in pretty much all the major cities in America.
Thank you so much, Carlos. And I'm going to put all of that information in the show notes and put it up on the Content Hub so that you can get that information as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lamont.
You're welcome. For my audience, I hope you got something from this. If you're an entrepreneur, being able to research, diversify, adapt is so important. It's actually one of the things that I'm doing now for myself. Researching, diversifying, adapting, because in this has enlightened me. This whole pandemic has enlightened me that I have more skills, much like Display America. They have a larger product offering. I know that I have skills that I can offer outside of just photography. And I know you have skills that you can offer just outside of what you do. So look at those skills, work on them, build them, because that will help you to adapt, research, adapt, and research, diversify, adapt. That's the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow's conversation is another business type conversation. We're going to talk to a printer who hasn't really lost much business. But the core reason why is based on relationships. So we're going to talk about the value of building relationships in our show tomorrow. So I'll end the show like I do all shows. To you, Carlos, and to my audience, make it a great day.
Amen to that.